So I want to jump straight into the book Karma. It's been a while since the last episode where we touched upon, I think we were perhaps a few chapters in, and I will do my best just to read some extracts from this upcoming section of the book. And if any additional thoughts come up to share, then I will try and do that. I can already sense that my energy is low, and there's a sense of brain fog as well. So, but whatever is read and whatever is in this book that I touch upon, then that I'm hoping will be enough within itself to give some wisdom and insight into more of the topic of karma. So I'm reading from page 67 of the book, and we are in the, I guess there's maybe the chapter called Karma as Memory, or the section of the book Karma as Memory, and we are at the passage that's titled Runanabandha, the honey trap of physical memory. What is the role of committed relationships in a fast-changing world? How necessary are they? Has commitment outlived its utility? Has it outgrown its relevance? These are questions I am often asked. And the implications of this physical memory for human life are tremendous. And this is not a moral argument. It is based on a very simple sense that your body is brimming with memory. Everything about it is the result of programming, from its shape and colour to its texture and size. This is why you still have your great-grandmother's arthritic knee and find it difficult to erase your monkey ancestors' habits. Don't forget, a human being and a chimp share 98.6% of their DNA. Now, body memory works on all the levels we have discussed earlier in this chapter, but a very important and large aspect of this memory is physical, as distinct from psychological and energetic. In Sanskrit, this physical memory of the body is called Runanabandha. Runanabandha is the physical memory you carry within you. It is a result of blood relationships, as we have seen earlier, but also, more important, a result of sexual relationships. Wherever there is physical intimacy, particularly of a sexual nature, the body registers the memory deeply, and so the arrangement of committed relationships in any society is based on a bedrock of profound intelligence. The logic is simple. Since a significant exchange of memory occurs in any physical encounter, if you confuse the body's memory with too many physical impressions, your system grows confused. once your memory system becomes complicated, it could take a lot more work to settle your life. It is important to emphasize that there is nothing wrong with Runa Nabandha. It is an essential part of life. Without Runa Nabandha, between a couple, for instance, a future generation could not be perpetuated. And without Runa Nabandha between a mother and child, a child could not survive. The only question, however, is how to make it supportive rather than entangling. How to ensure, in short, that a bond does not turn into bondage. For anyone on a spiritual path, simplifying Runa Nabandha becomes particularly important because the ultimate aim for the seeker is to transcend physicality. So I'll pause it there. Actually, I've read quite a long passage. So as with other readings and other chapters, passages, already it's a very deep aspect of karma. We're talking about physical memory, physical impressions. And just to reread a line earlier, your body is brimming with memory. Everything about it is the result of programming, from its shape and colour to its texture and size. So we have the ancestry, physical memory, the blood relationships, and now we're talking about intimate relationships as well, or physical intimacy, and particularly of a sexual nature. The body registers the memory deeply. And talks about against the consequences of Runa Nabandha, or if there is a significant exchange of memory occurs in any physical encounter. If you confuse the body's memory with too many physical impressions, your system grows confused. So we're really going under the surface here of dealing with physical impressions. So again, it's the pointing out the observation of, in some ways, minimizing or simplifying that physical memory. That for anyone on the spiritual path, it says here, simplifying Runa Nabandha becomes particularly important. The ultimate aim for the seeker is to transcend physicality. So there's that sense, of course, if there's a huge input of physical memory occurring, and your aim is to simplify, dissolve, perhaps, is a word I think we can use. Reduce physical memory, then of course you're always going to be chasing that. So it's being aware of our actions on that level. As we have seen, collective suffering implies that the whole clan's memory runs through you, so your ancestry. Your body tends to behave in a particular way because it is the carrier of these deep physical memories that make up the suffering of your people, your tribe. If you complicate your system with further runanabandha, the suffering can be enormous. Now, let us distinguish between the memory of the mind and the memory of the body. When the mind encounters memory, a certain amount of discernment is involved, but the body takes on memory without discernment. Take the example of food. Your mind can discern whether something is nourishing, but the body only can taste and then either get sick or be nourished. It is the same with physical relationships. The mind has some measure of discernment about a partner, but the body does not. It simply receives. What the body does have, however, unlike the mind, is the ability to perceive. The mind can compute, calculate, process, assess, but it is not an instrument of perception. The mind simply interprets what the body perceives. Sharpening the body's ability to perceive is the whole purpose of yoga. When your hard disk is full, you cannot take in any more memory. It is already memory saturated. But when the body is uncluttered, it becomes a tremendous tool. If you simplify and reduce the volume of physical memory through yoga, the body can turn into a powerful instrument of perception. For instance, if a plate of food is placed in front of me, if I simply put my hands over it, I know how the food will behave inside my system. Depending on what I need to do that day, whether it is initiating a group into a kriya or playing a game of golf, I will decide whether to eat the food or not. It is possible to cultivate the body in such a way that its perception is razor sharp. To develop such discernment, however, the memory's impact on the physical body needs to be minimal. So let's just take a moment to absorb that there. So we said earlier that the body is already brimming with physical memory. And so it makes sense when perhaps the body's perception is not as sharp, and that as physical memory begins to reduce, then there's space for perception. Almost like there's a clearer signal, the body will have less clutter. So perhaps the perception is always there, the instrument of the body to perceive, and perhaps in more strong, more intense ways perceptions happen, but perhaps a lot of perception is lost because of the clutter of physical memory. But as we see here, as it reduces, it can be used as a tremendous tool to navigate life. And is one example here which is incredible to read. I'll read this passage again. For instance, if a plate of food is placed in front of me, if I simply put my hands over it, I know how the food will behave inside the system. So again, it's like almost like there's a a receiver in the body, the perceiving quality of the body, that's with the unclutteredness. Now it can read the signals. So maybe it's fair to say that life's always given us signals. It's always interacting. There's always messages back and forth. Just as within the body, it's communicating. If the body heats up too much, perhaps there'll be sort of internal communication, and the body will perceive that and respond to it. Okay, we need to reduce the temperature of the body, and maybe sweat starts forming. And in this way, the body perceiving the outside environment, the dialogue there. I'm a bit mindful here not to sort of read too much here. I've kind of sometimes it's hard to pick out extracts because it's all obviously a complete passage, but I'm just mindful of sort of fair use of this book and how much can be read. Okay, let's read a little bit here towards the end. Without dropping physical memory, the body is ridden with compulsions. Most people are aware of this. You may decide with great determination to abstain from certain substances or to wake up early every morning. You may even manage for a while, but that is only in the initial phase. Mental determination alone cannot eradicate physical memory. It takes time and effort to work Runanabandha out of your system. You can see how difficult it is already. So many triggers exist. The memory of tobacco may provoke the body to move in one direction, the smell of alcohol in another, the aroma of food in one direction, the memory of sexuality in yet another. Once all these memories have been reduced, however, life is very simple. Now, if you want to simply sit still, the body does this very easily. Life now unfolds in the best possible way, with unexamined accumulation. The body can turn into a living hell. But once this receptacle is reasonably empty, once there is a certain ease in the system, this body is extraordinarily perceptive. So I'll read the last part, which is a sadhana, which is, I believe, translates as practice. And at the end of passages, there are, or maybe chapters, or both, there are sadhanas. So perhaps this might be a useful one to read here. If you want to test your own levels of Runanabandha, you could try sitting alone in an unfamiliar place, on an unfamiliar piece of furniture. Observe yourself closely. How comfortable is your body? Is it uneasy? Does it seem to want to be elsewhere? You may have noticed that older people often have a favourite armchair. In many families, people gravitate toward the same chairs at the dining table. Some of this is a matter of convenience or habit. but very often what is at work is runanabandha. The more runanabandha you build, you can be sure you are moving backward on the ladder of spiritual evolution. Karma sets a boundary for you. When that boundary becomes too comfortable, it is time to start becoming vigilant. The same chair or room may give you physical privacy, but if you find yourself growing territorial about it, or disturbed, as if your very identity depends on it, it is time to start shaking up your karma. The reason many spiritual traditions offered monasteries and ashrams to seekers was to enable them to live in a circumscribed geographical place that was free of runanabandha. This sometimes created a new set of boundaries and territories, which is unfortunate. But the aim was always to empower the seeker to expand horizons, rather than to contract them. In the outside world, their runanabandha would often draw them to a certain set, or places, or circumstances, over and over again. Shestra Sanyas, apologies again for the mispronunciation, if I'm sure that is a mispronunciation, a Sanskrit term that refers to a vow to never leave a certain consecrated geographical space, was a way for seekers to liberate themselves from the overpowering tentacles of physical memory. So a little bit of history there and traditions, but a simple way to test our own levels of runanabandha. I just want to touch upon, there was a sentence here of one of the ways to, and I think it's been mentioned before, that yoga, physical yoga, is a way to work out physical memory. And there isn't mention at the moment of other ways. I'm sure there are other ways, but there's a sense of working with the body. And my initial sense with yoga, it's a gentle practice. You are gently tuning into the body as yoga is being done. And I'm sure there's a depth to yoga that is much beyond me, but on the surface, I think this is early in the book, that certain parts of the body, there may be more physical memory, more difficulties, and to work those out. So again, you sort of touching upon the complications system of karma, the 3 levels: the mental, the physical, the energetic, and here again it's just touching upon the physical memory. And there was mention of time and effort. So effort being perhaps less mental willpower in that sense, but the effort of perhaps the effort of presence, the effort of being aware. I think it was early in the book we talked about karmic yoga, things done in complete awareness or complete abandonment. So there's no you invested. You've abandoned the little you, the little me invested in that activity, or there is complete simple awareness, which also takes you out of that. And there is mention of physical yoga as well. So perhaps it's good to leave it there. I hope that has been something. Again, all of these excerpts that I'm sharing, extracts of this book, is just touching on the surface. And I think even Sadhguru says that the subject is much more deeper than this book can provide. But I'm trusting that even touching on the surface of these aspects of the aspects of karma, that it's a great initial step there to take and to be aware of. So that was. So perhaps it's good for me just to a few moments of presence to recover from that. It's a great, very enjoyable to sort of read and learn, but I'm aware of my energy levels and my health, of feeling quite drained after that too. So and of course it's a heavy topic we're dealing with here as well. It can be a lot to take in and to process. So just a few moments of perhaps silent reflection or rest. Perhaps allow the mind to settle if there's been a mental reaction to what is being read. Perhaps there's been a thought of the past and maybe consequences of past physical memories or compulsions, habits. And now it's time to allow the mind to settle.